At the very bottom of the shopping complex lies a self-service restaurant known as Yoku no Nakoya, adorned with an illustration of a cat at its entrance. For over 50 years it has delighted many patrons. Though it's labelled as a Western cafe, it also serves a variety of dishes that are uniquely special to the citizens of this world. The food is so exquisite that customers often find themselves arguing over which dish pairs best, with what each bite igniting a culinary debate that could spark a culinary showdown. As diners savour their meals, they engage in lively comparisons, vying for the title of the ultimate dish. Some even go so far as to challenge one another over which dish reigns supreme. Thankfully, the owner steps in with a stern gaze, urging everyone to calm down and simply enjoy their meals. Meanwhile, a dragon queen is soaring back to her lair, preparing to transform into her human form for dinner at her favourite restaurant. She has an agreement with the owner of Nakoya to avoid dining among the other patrons, as she is one of the 6 great dragons of the world. Eating alongside regular customers would be rather inconvenient for her. As she sits down to a fragrant bowl of beef stew, she inhales deeply, captivated by the tantalizing aroma that calls to her. Eagerly, she picks up her spoon and digs in while it's hot, discovering that the broth and vegetables are simply irresistible. After finishing her meal, she pays, and even takes home a liter of beef stew to enjoy later. Once she returns home, she immediately reverts to her true form to indulge in more stew, still yearning for that delightful taste. Meanwhile, the chef at Nakoya, having worked tirelessly through the night, steps into his workspace only to be startled by an unfamiliar figure. It's Aletta, who panics upon waking to find herself face to face with him. She apologizes for devouring all of Nakoya's food, explaining that while wandering outside, she was captivated by the enchanting aroma wafting from the magical portal. Drawn by the logo of the cat, she couldn't resist stepping in to explore, only to find herself in a dreamlike place. The delicious food seemed to beckon her, and before she knew it, Aletta was savoring spoonful after spoonful until the bowl was empty. Feeling satisfied, she closed her eyes for a refreshing nap, only to awaken to the presence of the restaurant's owner. She confesses that she isn't human but rather part of a demon race, protected by their god. Like all demons, she possesses traits that set her apart from humans, such as horns, tails, and sometimes toxic scales. Even if her parents were human or half-elves, she was still blessed by the gods at birth. However, all Aletta has to show for it are a pair of small black goat horns, quite unlike other demons. Her strength and magical abilities are no greater than that of an ordinary human girl. Over 6 months ago, she made the decision to leave her hometown and move to a human city. Aletta concealed her horns and sought work to make ends meet. But one day, while on the job, she accidentally revealed her horns to a human, leading to her dismissal. The rumor of her being a demon quickly spread throughout the city, making it exceedingly difficult for her to find work in a royal capital. As her funds began to dwindle, Aletta found herself living in a decrepit, rundown area. After hearing her story, the owner of Nakoya not only forgives her, but also prepares a special breakfast for Aletta. Yet, she feels anxious and guilty, not wanting to become a burden or cause trouble for him. Relieved to hear that she can eat free as one of his staff, she finally agrees. This special breakfast is something the owner makes for his employees, but it's not typically on the menu. Aletta's eyes widened in surprise as the uncle before her revealed his true talent. This cooking was nothing short of masterful. The two of them sat down together to share breakfast, and each bite Aletta took was like a melody of flavors dancing on her tongue, filling her with pure joy and happiness. Nakoya smiled warmly, delighted to see someone savor his food with such heartfelt enthusiasm. After the meal, Nakoya gently asked if Aletta was looking for work, having heard she once served in an inn. He then offered her a job as a server in his humble establishment. The work would start early in the morning and stretch well into the night, simply taking orders and cleaning tables. As for payment, he promised her the typical wage of a student, 10 silver coins a day for a 14-hour shift, including breaks. On top of that, she would receive 3 meals daily. Without hesitation, Aletta accepted the offer with a joyful heart and dove straight into her new duties. Nakoya reminded her to freshen up and change into her uniform first, which sparked Aletta's curiosity about bathing in this new world. Once dressed, Aletta looked utterly adorable in the staff outfit, her shoes fitting her perfectly. She then eagerly began wiping down the tables and chairs, ready to prove herself. Just then, the Dragon Queen, Sarah, caught sight of Aletta while enjoying her beef stew. A rare treasure had appeared in her hoard, pulling her to visit the restaurant briefly. The whole day of helping out and having a purpose filled Aletta with more cheer than she'd felt in a long time. Reflecting on her journey, she vowed to push herself even harder tomorrow. Slowly, she drifted into dreams of being a treasure hunter. Today, Sarah had uncovered a hidden treasure site. As she descended from the inn, The owner casually mentioned a few things about treasures, but being a hunter, she kept the location secret. Just as she slipped down a wall, she encountered a pack of demons. Swiftly drawing her weapon, she dispatched them in moments. Following the map, she arrived at the treasure only to find a stone block that opened to reveal a door adorned with a cat emblem. Sarah was puzzled, never having seen this door before, but she knew that to move forward, she had to pass through it. For Sarah, even if she fell, it was a testament to her strength as a treasure hunter. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through. The door chimed like a welcoming bell, startling her enough to ready her blade. But before she could react further, Chef Nicoya appeared, calmly asking Sarah to sheath her sword. He explained that this place was his simple Western-style restaurant. Hearing that she entered through William's door, Nicoya shared that this door was a magical tool loan that warped space to connect different worlds, as told by an old patron. Though bewildered by this strange realm, Sarah accepted the invitation to sit and enjoy the food. Curious about cuisine from another world, Sarah wondered what dishes awaited her and hoped they wouldn't serve anything too bizarre. Aletta brought her a complimentary cup of refreshing lemon water, which Sarah sipped and found deliciously cool. She picked up the menu, recognizing only a few items like beef stew. Looking up at the main menu board, Sarah ordered the daily special and asked Aletta about the dish, only to find Aletta unsure herself. Flustered, Aletta dashed inside to ask Nicoya, who smiled knowingly, calling it fate. The special today was indeed the beloved drunken pork chop, a favorite of William. Sarah inquired about tomorrow's special, but Aletta explained the door to the restaurant only appeared twice a day, so tomorrow's menu was uncertain. Sarah guessed it was Saturday, and pondered why William chose to spend his final days in such a run-down town, suspecting it might be because the food here surpassed even the royal capital's fare. Just then, Nicoya finished preparing the special drunken pork chop for her. Sarah was amazed as she looked it over. This was truly cuisine from another world. As she had heard, right on cue, her stomach gave a loud growl, making her blush a little. Aletta showed Sarah how to enjoy the dish properly before stepping away to give her space. Sarah began savoring each bite, every flavor perfectly matching her palate. Inspired, Sarah ordered another portion right after. Remembering Aletta's tip, she added lemon and sauce, which elevated the dish to new heights. Taking her first bite, Sarah's eyes opened wide before closing in pure bliss, as the tangy zest and rich sauce created an unforgettable flavor. This drunken pork chop had reached the pinnacle of culinary perfection, and she could eat it endlessly without growing tired. While she ate, a few new customers arrived, surprised to see the young new staff member. After polishing off several plates of the drunken pork chop, Sarah was full but delighted when Nicoya brought her a bento sandwich, a side William always ordered after the pork chop. Seeing her enjoyment, Nicoya simply followed his usual routine and wanted Sarah to try it too. Though a bit hesitant, she accepted the gift. Before Sarah left, Nicoya asked about William. She shared that she heard he passed away peacefully, though she guessed he must be saddened by never returning here. They exchanged farewells, and as Sarah walked away, she recalled the drunken pork chop and the two loyal customers who fondly remembered the old man behind the dish. The door slowly vanished behind her. Looking down at the bento box, a realization dawned. This was the legendary treasure every treasure hunter dreamt of, a fitting legacy for William. Meanwhile, Commander X Lamar received word that a foreign swordmaster named Tatsuo Ji had arrived from the western continent to meet him. Known as a warrior whose name struck fear into every swordsman, X Lamar was skeptical about Tatsuo's intentions, suspecting he might be an assassin in disguise. But when Tatsuo stepped forward, X Lamar studied him carefully and knew without doubt he was the real deal. Greeting Tatsuo, he was handed an item from an acquaintance, a sword that had been entrusted 3 years prior. Under a starlit and moonlit sky, X Lamar raced to complete his mission. If he failed, he might die in this harsh land, but his unyielding spirit refused to let him quit, driven by the weight of his vital duty. Suddenly, monstrous humanoid creatures hidden in the forest emerged, their numbers swarming the skies. Forced to set up camp and fight desperately, X Lamar's forces struggled against the toxic miasma and the razor-sharp claws tearing through the air. Their enemies' overwhelming numbers threatened to engulf them all, pushing X Lamar to his limits. But with fierce resolve burning in his eyes, he stood firm, knowing every breath was a battle and every step a testament to his will. The night echoed with the clash of steel and the cries of war, as X Lamar fought not just for survival, but for the hope of a brighter dawn. In this brutal wilderness, where darkness sought to swallow light, X Lamar's mission was more than a task, it was a beacon of courage against the encroaching shadows. His story reminds us that sometimes the greatest battles are fought not just with swords, but with unbreakable spirit. They had to report this devastating disaster back to the castle, to call for reinforcements. As an exceptional knight, Zaylaman was chosen for this mission. He charged out of the fortress through a bloodied path that his comrades risked their lives to carve open. He should have made it to the castle, but his horse collapsed, foaming at the mouth, likely poisoned by the enemy's toxins unleashed as they fled the fortress. Forced to abandon his steed, Zaylaman carried only the bare essentials and pressed on with his own 2 feet. Exhausted by hunger and thirst after days of struggle, his fatal mistake was rushing off without bringing any provisions. As he prayed to the gods for strength, suddenly a door appeared ahead bearing a cat emblem. Desperate, Zaylaman rushed inside, feeling as if saved by a miracle. Before Nicoya could ask questions, Zaylaman boldly raised his sword, demanding food and water. Expecting a fight, he was stunned when Nicoya calmly agreed, telling him to wait a moment. The place looked nothing like a tent. Still suspicious, San asked Nicoya if he was the pioneer of this place, but Nicoya just said he was merely the owner of a Western restaurant. Though unsure how Zaylaman had arrived here, Nicoya reassured him that a door from his world had connected to the restaurant. Nicoya calmed Zaylaman, asking him to sit down first. He didn't question Zaylaman's faith, but only needed him to believe this was a restaurant. As for what Nicoya could provide, he said he could serve anything Zaylaman ordered. Confused, Zaylaman took the menu and started picking something to fill his hungry stomach. Seeing shrimp on the menu shocked him. It reminded him of the rare tokens they captured from the sea pirates back home, which were nearly impossible to transport intact even to nearby towns. Since joining the military, Zaylaman hadn't seen shrimp like this, so he ordered a portion of deep-fried shrimp. While waiting, he drank the restaurant's complimentary iced tea, amazed that ice could exist in this world. After wiping his face to refresh himself, the shrimp dish arrived. Zaylaman sliced a piece, tasting it carefully, only then believing it was truly shrimp fresher than any he'd ever known back home. The shrimp was coated in batter and fried in high-quality oil, leaving no unpleasant aftertaste. Dipped in the accompanying sauce, the flavors exploded, making Zaylaman devour the dish eagerly and order several more servings. Yet, in the midst of his feast, a sudden realization struck. Had no money with him. So, he told Nicoya he would pay with his sword, asking him to keep this token until they met again, a knight's way of showing his honor. He savored the succulent shrimp tempura, each bite bursting with flavor, prompting him to eagerly request more orders. Yet, in his moment of culinary bliss, he suddenly realized he had no money on him. With a hint of desperation, he turned to Nicoya, offering his sword as a promise to return and settle the bill. This was the way a knight showcased his honor. Nicoya hesitated, not wanting to accept the unusual payment, but the seriousness in Exleman's eyes, coupled with his urgency, left her without the chance to explain that the door only opened once every 7 days. And so, under the dim light of dawn, Exleman raced to the castle, just in time to deliver the good news. Miraculously, the territory had been spared from disaster, and as a reward they bestowed upon him this very fortress. 10 days later, when he returned to the little cottage, San was taken aback. There was no sign of the restaurant. Yet, to his astonishment, the sword had reappeared in Tatsuo's hands. Exleman inquired about Tatsuo's acquaintance, who simply replied that it was an old friend. Tatsuo was also convinced there was a door near the fortress and asked Exleman if he wanted to indulge in shrimp tempura again the next day. Little did Exleman know, the following day, he would find that door instantly. He burst in, shouting for an order of tempura, startling both Sarah and Aletta, who were still in the midst of their meal. Meanwhile, Nicoya prepared a delightful plate of pasta for Aletta, using the knight's special sauce. As soon as Aletta took a bite, she couldn't contain her praise for its incredible taste. Curious, she asked for its name, wishing to add it to the menu. Nicoya, with a calm demeanor, replied it was just a dish made from whatever was on hand, lacking a name. However, Aletta was eager to name it herself, leaving Nicoya with no choice but to let her. After a moment of thought, Aletta decided to call it Knight's Guild Pasta. It reminded her of the time when there was a proprietor named Thomas, who had traded in many unique ingredients, especially wheat. He was also the one who had improved the pasta dish, transforming it from its humble beginnings. Many people chose to buy pasta and sauces from the knight's caravan. Thomas was praised as a culinary reform genius, but he had a secret behind a door that led to another world. Since the knight's caravan was in debt, Thomas brought his grandson Sirius through that door to the shop. Seeing Thomas, Aletta guessed he was a regular visitor here. Thomas and his grandson sat down to eat. Sirius was curious since it was his first time at this place. Nicoya came out to invite Thomas to order food, and Thomas introduced Sirius as his grandson. When Nicoya brought coffee first, Sirius was intrigued by the drink. Thomas explained that coffee was a delicious beverage in this world. Aletta served the coffee, and Sirius was surprised, mimicking his grandfather's way of drinking. Later, Nicoya brought a bag of money and exchanged it for ingredients Thomas had brought. Thomas noted there seemed to be fewer ingredients than a few months ago. Sirius wondered if the ingredients they brought would be enough for the restaurant's use. Thomas replied that those ingredients were probably just for the owner's personal use. Because the dish's flavors were based on Japanese tastes, Nicoya adjusted the recipes to make them more enjoyable here. Sirius thought this was too much trouble. For Nicoya, though, what truly excited him was serving delicious meals and making customers happy. Just then, Nicoya finished checking ingredients and said he would make 2 special dishes for Thomas and Sirius. As usual, Thomas ordered 2 large spaghetti plates with meat sauce. Seeing the beautifully presented dish, Sirius was amazed. Thomas began savoring the Italian noodles mixed with vegetables and rich tomatoes sauce delicious beyond words. Sirius took a bite, and his eyes widened in astonishment. The flavors blended perfectly, creating a unique dish with a sweet and sour touch enhanced by the meat's richness. The vegetables in the sauce reminded him of the rare finds their caravan had recently acquired from a remote area, which they held exclusive rights to. Curious, Sirius asked his grandfather why the restaurant served dishes with flavors their caravan hadn't publicly revealed yet. Thomas only smiled, and Sirius immediately sensed something. Looking closely at the menu, Thomas finally admitted that his fame as a culinary reform genius was a sham. He simply wanted to enjoy these flavors in his world. Not to spoil the mood, Thomas taught Sirius the secret to delicious eating, sprinkling grated cheese on the pasta. Sirius tasted it and was overjoyed by how good it was. He kept eating eagerly, savoring this special Italian pasta until full. Later, the two returned to their own world, watching the door vanish. Sirius was surprised, and his grandfather explained they could visit this restaurant only once a day, while he himself came every 4 days to do business with the owner there. Sirius was welcome to visit on the other days if he wished. Overjoyed, Sirius thanked his grandfather. Princess Adel H was a polite and obedient girl, yet always lonely in her grandfather's castle. She remembered being brought here because her mother, the queen, was pregnant and worried she'd be lonely without playmates. Her grandfather had no choice but to bring her to the secret room. Young Adel only remembered the bright room with many tables and chairs beyond the door, and that she even got to eat clouds there. But now, her grandfather was no longer by her side. Today was Adel's return to visit her grandfather's castle. She entered the familiar room sadly but suddenly began coughing harshly, worrying her maid. The maid rushed in, but the princess assured her she was fine and wished to be alone. Though the maid knew the princess's tuberculosis was hard to catch, she felt guilty for not treating her better. After the maid left, Adel collapsed on her bed, crying alone. Outside, the maid's colleague comforted her not to blame herself. Only when the princess rested and recovered might her illness improve. Their role was to stay strong and support her until then. Recently, the princess hadn't enjoyed sweets much. At that moment, a breeze brushed Adel's hair as she looked up toward the familiar door, sensing she had seen it before. She rose and opened the door. Memories of childhood flooded back. Her grandfather once took her to a restaurant. Returning to the present, the princess sat ready at the table. Aletta brought drinks to serve her. Upon hearing the explanation that this was Nicoya's restaurant, Adel seemed shy, so Nicoya stepped out to ask if she was the granddaughter of Wilhelm. Hearing the owner knew her grandfather's name sparked her excitement. She recalled how her grandfather had brought her here, concerned that with her mother, the queen, pregnant at home, his granddaughter might feel lonely without playmates. Thus, he had no choice but to take her to the secret room within his memories. In her childhood recollections, Ado too remembered that beyond that door, there were many tables and chairs, all bright and welcoming. She could even remember tasting clouds there. But now, her grandfather was no longer by her side. Today marked Ado II's return to her grandfather's castle. As she walked into that familiar room, a wave of sadness washed over her. Suddenly, she began to cough violently, causing the maid to rush in with concern, yet the princess reassured her that she was fine and desired to be alone. Although the maid knew that the princess's tuberculosis was not easily contagious, she still felt guilty for not treating her properly. Aduhai collapsed onto her bed, tears silently tracing down her cheeks. Outside, her maid colleagues gently comforted her, urging her to stop tormenting herself. Only when the princess rested and healed could her illness begin to fade. Their duty was clear, to be strong pillars of support until she recovered. Lately, the princess seemed to lose her appetite, especially for sweets. At that moment, a breeze stirred through Aduhai's hair. She looked up and saw a familiar doorway, one she felt she had known before. Rising, she opened the door, and memories from her childhood flooded back. Her grandfather had once brought her to a restaurant long ago. Snapping back to reality, the princess sat at the table while Aletta, her maid, brought drinks to serve her. Upon learning this place was Nakoya restaurant, the princess seemed shy. The owner, Nakoya, stepped forward and asked if she was Wilhelm's granddaughter. Hearing her grandfather's name sparked a flicker of excitement in her eyes. Nakoya promised to prepare an old favorite dish for her today. Still hesitant, Aletta handed her the menu. As she glanced at the new dishes, memories of her grandfather's visit stirred again. Her grandfather had brought her here to try a dish called Cloud. Hearing that name puzzled Aletta, but Nakoya knew it well and quickly agreed to make it for the princess. That Cloud was actually a luscious scoop of chocolate ice cream, cool, sweet and refreshing. She took one spoonful, then another, as each bite carried her back to those cherished moments with her grandfather. Her eyes now sparkled with quiet happiness. She ate joyfully, savoring every bite. Afterward, Nakoya invited her to return once every 7 days to enjoy the dish, though next time it wouldn't be free. The princess smiled warmly and returned to her room for a peaceful nap. Curious about her grandfather, Aletta asked Nakoya, who shared that he had built a small empire over 50 years. When it was complete, they called it an empire, and he was known as the first great emperor. The next day, Aduhai happily stepped into the garden to admire the flowers. Worried, her maid hurried over, reminding her to rest in her room. The princess only smiled and reassured her she was fine. For the first time in a while, the princess found joy in gazing at the flowers, praising their beauty. This peaceful moment brought comfort to everyone serving in the castle. In the southern swamps of the eastern continent lies a mysterious tribe, the salamander people. Half human, half reptile, they have lived there since ancient times, making the swamp their domain. They survive by hunting the large reptiles native to their land. Within a tribe of blue-tailed salamanders, the brave warrior Garenpo was cleansing the mud from his skin after a hunt. After bathing, Garenpo warmed his body under the sun's gentle rays. His muscular frame and skin, armored with tough blue scales, gleamed in the light, proof that he could withstand blows from the blunt swords humans often wield. This was the mark of a true warrior. Having survived countless perilous battles, his youthful vigor combined with hard-earned experience made him a force to be reckoned with. Garenpo dried himself with a cloth woven from vines, donning his sturdy armor. His weapon of choice was a spear, its blade a polished, shining stone. Today was the day he would prove himself a true warrior. 30 years ago, a mysterious gate appeared in these lands, later built into a shrine. It was said that beyond this portal lay another world, and the strongest warrior of their tribe, Jupa, once crossed it. On the other side was the Nakoya restaurant. Jupa's miraculous encounter there brought back wondrous foods from that other world. Since then, a tradition formed. Every 7 days, when the Black Gate appeared, the strongest man chosen from the annual festival would brave the journey through the portal and return bearing food from beyond. Garenpo raced back, amid cheers from his tribe, carrying prized supplies and ready to step into that other world. As Garenpo settled down, he carefully read the menu needed by Aletta, just as the late warrior once did. Aletta, understanding his silent command, then placed a serving before him. The sight of the golden rolled omelette, streaked with vivid red lines, made his mouth water. Garenpo joyfully lifted his spoon and savored the first bite. This dish was so exquisite. His tribe had attempted to recreate it at home using crocodile eggs from the swamp, but none matched its smooth perfection. The rolled egg paired with the tangy red tomato sauce created a harmony of flavors, a taste that whispered of distant worlds. Before finishing the first portion, Garenpo eagerly ordered the second serving. Only after devouring it did he let out a satisfied breath. Just then, Nakoya finished preparing all the takeout for the tribe. Garenpo inspected the food, paid, and began his journey home. He returned amid the joyous admiration of his tribe. To the salamander people, this golden egg dish was treasure beyond compare. Just seeing it made mouths water all over the village. Eyes gleamed with anticipation, waiting for the chief's blessing. When the chief finally spoke, the salamanders dove into the meals, competing eagerly for their fill. Some even swallowed entire mouthfuls in one gulp. The feast was a moment of unity and celebration, a rare burst of happiness in their harsh, swampy world. Watching them devour the treasured food, you could feel the tribe's deep bond and the hope that such moments would continue to shine amidst their struggles. Unlike others who choose slowly to savor the flavor, all were happy, wagging their tails fiercely against the ground. Fania is a strong-willed girl. She wants to venture out to find food for her father, and today, being her mother's special day, she hopes to cook something truly delicious for her. As Fania steps out to gather ingredients, she suddenly senses a strange teleportation magic nearby. Instinctively, she draws her weapon and heads toward the source. Following the signal, Fania arrives at a mysterious door. Suddenly, She realizes this might be an ancient artifact left by the elven sages of old. She opens it cautiously, and inside, she finds many people seated, ordering food, a sight that surprises and confuses her. Slowly, she steps in, looking for an empty table to sit. Fania takes a cold lemon drink and a menu from a letter. She lifts the glass, sniffs the drink, then scans the menu. Fania feels uneasy around the diners here, suspecting this place serves human cuisine. Human food has always sparked a deep aversion within her. It feels savage. Though none of the dishes seem edible to her, she thinks it would be rude to visit a restaurant and not eat anything. Just then, Aletta rushes over to take Fania's order. Aletta listens to Farid Dania's vegetarian requests, her eyes wide with confusion. None of the menu items match Fania's strict diet, but Aletta doesn't give up. She runs inside to ask Chef Nicoya. Nicoya is surprised to hear a request for no meat, dairy, or eggs, but he offers to prepare something special. Aletta returns excitedly, telling Fania that her unique meal can be made. Fania is stunned, and even warns them carefully not to include even a trace of forbidden ingredients. Nicoya steps out confidently, assuring her he can deliver a complete meal. Though skeptical, Fania sits down, her mind swirling with doubt. Could humans really cook a meal without meat? As she hesitates, Nicoya brings out tofu steak and bread, which don't suit her, so he swaps the bread for plain rice. Looking at the meal, Fania's surprise grows. She smells it and detects no hint of animal scent. Tentatively, she cuts a small piece and tastes it. To her amazement, the flavor is so delicious it stirs memories of childhood, a time when her mother dried mushrooms in the sun, a secret that enhanced the soup's taste. This dish seems to work the same magic, the sides blending perfectly to create an irresistible harmony. Finally, Farid Dania fully enjoys the meal, exactly to her liking. She never imagined humans could craft such exquisite dishes, and now she's determined not to be outdone. The very next day, she bursts from home with fierce resolve. She must learn to cook even better meals than Nicoya's restaurant. Meanwhile, Aletta faces a difficult guest. This man wants nothing but a dish called katsudon. Nicoya explains to Aletta that Lionel was once defeated by an elf warrior who attacked all his comrades. Afterwards, Lionel was sold to the Demon Lord's clan, rulers of the Demon City. There, Lionel was imprisoned, destined to be a fighting slave for others' entertainment. This empire of demons ruled through law and cunning, and Lionel had committed many cruel acts in their lands. To make an example of him, they threw Lionel into the arena as a slave gladiator. Across the prison stands his opponent for tomorrow's Feta monster, with a human head, lion's body, wings, and tail. Lionel's head aches. If he lost to a puny warrior before, how could he stand a chance against this beast? While lost in thought, a portal suddenly appears behind him. With fate pushing him here, Lionel figures he won't survive much longer anyway, so why not try something new? He steps forward, opens the door, and asks the chef where he is. Hearing it's a restaurant, his stomach roars impatiently. So, he tells the chef to cook him whatever he can't pay, but just wants food that might fuel a win. Surprisingly, the owner understands and hurries to prepare a dish called katsudon. In this land, katsu also means victory. Made from meat, eggs, and rice, it's a hearty meal fit for a warrior. Lionel takes a spoonful his tail, starts wagging uncontrollably, and he feels like yelling with joy from how delicious it is. Regaining composure, he tastes more, satisfied beyond words. Lionel finishes his meal, wanting more but realizing he has no money. The thoughtful owner senses this and brings out a second hot bowl of katsudon. Seeing Lionel's drooping face, he knows one bowl won't be enough. Lionel devours it happily. The owner assures him to eat freely and pay whenever he can. After the meal, Lionel thanks the owner and promises to return. Suddenly, the owner reminds him to pay next time. Lionel protests, "But you said money wouldn't be a problem." Then he laughs, energized and ready to fight. Earlier, someone mentioned that if he defeats an opponent, he'll earn a reward. Determined, Lionel vows to earn enough to feast on many more katsudons. Now stepping into the arena, Lionel unleashes all the strength fueled by his meal. With a few knockout blows, he defeats the manticore before him, shocking the crowd. This opponent had worked hard for a year to win 10,000 gold coins and become the arena's strongest gladiator for over 2 decades. Sometimes, he'd visit Nicoya's restaurant for a katsu meal. Lionel's uncle once told stories that people began calling him the Lion King. Aletta listens eagerly, wondering if Lionel could defeat that elf warrior in a rematch. Though uncertain, Nicoya hopes he can after all. He's eaten plenty of katsudon already. Today, Aletta reviews the menu again, curious about the regular and dessert menus, since many people contributed to writing them. Nicoya is surprised, thinking Aletta couldn't read the continental language. Blushing, she admits she noticed the handwriting was different and is trying to memorize the restaurant's menu. Suddenly, Nakoya grows serious and checks how much he's learned so far. For over 20 years, he dominated the arena. Occasionally, he would visit the famous dish restaurant Nakoya. His uncle even shared tales of him being hailed as the Lion King. Aletta listened with eager anticipation, her curiosity piqued. If he were to face the elf warrior again, would he emerge victorious? Though unsure of the outcome, she held on to hope, as he had devoured countless servings before. Today, Aletta browsed through the menu again, wondering about the regular dishes and the dessert menu. It seemed many had contributed to it. Nakoya was surprised, as he thought Aletta couldn't read the Eastern continent's language. Aletta shyly confessed that she had noticed different handwriting styles and was trying to memorize the menu. Suddenly, Nakoya grew serious and decided to test her knowledge. To his astonishment, she answered every question about the dishes, their ingredients, and origins with ease, filling him with pride. Just then, a gloomy customer entered the restaurant. In the Eastern continent, a powerful nation resided in an ancient duke's territory, where a princess named Victoria lived. She was the duke's eldest daughter, and at 36 years old, still remained unmarried, leading many to speculate that she would remain single for life. The reason was peculiar. Despite being born to ordinary parents, she was an ally. This unique trait meant she could never hope for a normal, quiet life, as elves inherited magical powers from their lineage, making her existence anything but ordinary. Their existence challenged human understanding. Whether in the human world or the elf realm, they were cast as outcasts, strange anomalies rejected by society. No matter the origin, their choice was clear: abandon the mundane world to serve the gods, become mercenaries, explorers, or migrate to small hidden villages. Yet Victoria chose a different path. She became a witch. Defying her father, the former duke, she wielded her magic and forged her own destiny. A prodigy, in just 3 months, Victoria surpassed her magic teacher and outshined even the best witches in the duchy. Recognized for her power, 10 years later, she became the disciple of the kingdom's greatest wizard, Lord Artorius. After a decade of intense study, Victoria mastered legendary magic. Following her mentor's advice, she returned to the duchy to walk her chosen path, though living in seclusion, continuing her research in a private lab. The townspeople called her the Witch Duchess of the duchy. But sometimes, she set aside her magic for a sweet indulgence. Every 7 days, Victoria visited Nakoya's restaurant to savor her favorite dishes. Aletta, seeing Victoria's elf heritage, expected her to order something like tofu cabbage stew, but instead, Victoria ordered a creamy, icy dessert called kemli. In fact, the handwritten menu was none other than Victoria's own script, written to help Nakoya since she didn't know the Eastern continent's language. This kemli was a special creation tailored to Victoria's tastes. She picked up her fork and spoon, savoring the cool fruit ice cream, and especially the soft, silky pudding, rich with egg and milk flavors. After finishing, Victoria paid and bought an extra portion to take home. Yet Aletta wondered, how could an elf enjoy pudding containing egg and milk? Lord Artorius explained that for Victoria, encountering pudding from another world and her passion for studying preservation methods made this indulgence possible. Living apart from the world, such pleasures meant little to others but much to her. This day marked Aletta's first taste of steamed potatoes since starting work here. Aletta had worked tirelessly from dawn until the last customer left. First, she cleaned up, remembering the owner's advice. When serving in places like this, presentation and care mattered deeply. Aletta always makes sure to stay fresh and tidy. Next, she dons the restaurant's uniform and enjoys a hearty breakfast before diving into work. Before customers arrive, she cleans up diligently and assists Master Nakoya. Today, they've run out of cooking ingredients, so Nakoya calls Aletta to accompany him to the storage room to fetch more supplies. The two ride the elevator up to the ingredient storage floor, where countless varieties are neatly organized. Master Nakoya instructs Aletta to carry one box while he handles another, warning her to be careful since the load is heavy for a girl her size. Back at the restaurant, Nakoya opens the box to check the ingredients. Aletta's curiosity piques as she spots some potatoes ingredients that stir up many unforgettable memories for her. Seeing her interest, Nakoya decides to teach her the art of cooking potatoes to perfection. Nakoya introduces Aletta to the steaming method, a cooking style unfamiliar in her world. While she washes the potatoes, Aletta wonders what exactly steaming entails. Just then, customers begin to enter the restaurant. Regulars who visit every Saturday each have their favorite dishes so beloved that these meals have become their nicknames. They believe their chosen dish is the best the restaurant serves, and debates over which is superior often erupt. Nakoya once shared stories of these lively arguments, and today happens to be one of those days when a heated debate sparks over which dish reigns supreme. Their voices raise so loudly that Aletta tries to calm them down but ends up being scolded herself. Just then, another customer arrives and gently lectures the young pair. They came here to savor food and share stories, not to let rivalry spoil the meal's magic. Realizing their folly, the two calm down, sit together, and apologize. This scene makes the older patrons nostalgic, reminding them of their own past disputes over which dish was best. After reconciling the youngsters, the elders soon dive back into their own friendly banter, arguing whose favorite sandwich fillings take the crown. Lionel, having just finished his meal, orders another portion without missing a beat. As more customers flood in, the restaurant buzzes with lively chatter about the delicious dishes. Even Nicoya is no stranger to these spirited debates. They happen all the time. Meanwhile, Farid Dania pays no mind to the noise, focusing solely on her meal before approaching Nicoya to thank him. She also wants to buy an extra portion to take home. Nicoya suggests she try the Jackie Onigiri charcoal grilled mushroom rice balls. Intrigued, Farid agrees to order one to go, as nothing back home compares to it. Nicoya begins gathering ingredients to cook again, but outside, the playful quarrels resume, leaving Aletta overwhelmed and juggling orders from all directions. She feels like she has 6 arms just to keep up. Aletta memorizes every customer's orders amidst the chaos. Only after the last guest leaves does she finally get a moment to rest. Seeing how hungry she is, Nicoya calls her into the kitchen to cook. He brings out a steamer tool perfect for making steamed dishes. Then, Nicoya slices the potatoes and places them carefully into the steamer. Aletta wonders why he doesn't add more water. Nicoya explains that too much water prolongs boiling time. Steaming is different from boiling. Instead of water directly cooking the food, heat is transferred through steam. Steamed dishes like dumplings are specialties of Nicoya's grandfather. As for Nicoya himself, he admits he still needs practice, like perfecting his rice cooking skills. After steaming, Nicoya brings the steamer out. It's filled with piping hot potatoes. Using a skewer, Nicoya tests if the potatoes are done and hands it to Aletta to try. Once the skewer slides through easily, it means the potatoes are perfectly cooked. Nicoya then opens the fridge to fetch some simple but essential side items: a stick of butter. Placing the steaming potatoes and warm butter before Aletta, she eagerly prays for a delicious meal and takes a bite with her fork. To her surprise, just steaming the potatoes elevates them to a new level of flavor, richer and more delicious than any she's tasted before. This is the first time Aletta has experienced potatoes so wonderfully cooked. She keeps eating, losing track of time and quantity, amazed that a humble potato, once just a survival food, could transform into such a delicacy. From then on, Aletta's favorite dish becomes none other than the potato. About 20 years ago, a trade caravan traveling west was escorted by the strongest naval admiral in the duchy's territory, Frugo. When suddenly attacked by the Sea Lord, the admiral protected the caravan and ensured their safe escape, but paid a heavy price. He sank into the cold sea and vanished. Later, he drifted ashore on a deserted island, forced to survive alone for over 20 years. One day, a military detachment accidentally arrived at that very island to repair their ship and rescued Frugo. Though saved, Frugo seemed different, stronger, but not quite happy. During his isolation, every 7 days he shaved and ventured to a mysterious door that led to another world. After returning on the ship, he wondered if the duchy's lands held such a magical door. When dining at Nicoya's restaurant, Frugo spotted a knight from the duchy enjoying a meal there. Curious, 3 months after returning, Frugo searched everywhere until he finally found the door. Excited, he flung it open. Nicoya was surprised to see Frugo again after so long. As soon as he sat, Frugo hurriedly ordered his beloved dish, the fragrant kaddi rice. The admiral's ship had unintentionally docked on this island to repair their vessel, where they encountered and rescued Frugo. After being missing for an extended period, Frugo appeared significantly stronger than before. However, despite being saved, he didn't seem very cheerful. During his time on the island, he had a ritual of shaving every 7 days and heading toward a portal that led to another world. On the journey back, Frugo couldn't stop pondering whether the Duke's territory housed that magical door. While dining at the restaurant, he had seen a knight from that territory enjoying a meal which sparked his determination to seek it out. After 3 months of searching, he finally stumbled upon it and eagerly stepped through. When Nicoya saw Frugo again after a long time, he was taken aback. As soon as Frugo sat down, he quickly ordered his beloved curry rice, so urgently that Aletta barely had time to serve him. Once the dish arrived, Frugo took a bite and felt elated. The taste was just as he remembered, evoking memories of his survival days on the island. During one of his battles against monsters, he had serendipitously encountered the magical door that led to the restaurant, and, starving, the owner had prepared a delicious curry rice for him. Since then, he had indulged in that dish over 1,000 times. Even when other customers asked if he wasn't tired of it, and why he didn't try something different, Frugo firmly refused to change his favorite meal for 2 decades. At that moment, Nakoya suggested a new curry dish for Frugo to try, which left him in a state of panic. Frugo was anxious, unsure of how this new flavor would compare. Upon closer inspection, he noticed it looked very different from what he was used to a rich soup colored with curry, topped with chunks of chicken, served with rice on the side. It was entirely unlike the curry he had always eaten. Frugo hesitantly tasted the soup but quickly downed his lemonade because it was too spicy. With every spoonful, the tomato flavor blossomed, enchanting Frugo's palate. His appetite grew, and Nakoya's heart swelled with quiet joy, knowing the meal had won him over despite its fiery nature. Frugo admitted it was spicier than before, yet it was a completely different experience. Utterly delicious, even craved a second helping. Just as Nakoya prepared to head indoors, an unexpected voice broke the memento voice that sent chills down their spines. Turning around, they froze in disbelief. A girl stood before them, untouched by shame or clothing. For a long time, Kuro, the solitary dragon, had wrestled with a haunted past. A dragon of life and light, she wielded a power that could bring death to all living things. To survive the horrors of being prey, she and 7 other dragons united to battle the endless chaos of tentacles that threatened them, losing time and again, barely escaping death. After a grueling millennium-long war, they finally vanquished the monstrous threat. Yet, the aftermath left all creatures born from the battle frail and weak, mere sparks, easily snuffed out by even a flicker of Kuro's magic. But she refused to destroy innocent life. Still, a deep loathing stirred within her. Seeking solitude, Kuro soared to the farthest reaches of the sky, where magic thrived but no living beings survived. Today, alone and contemplative, a sudden flash of light revealed a mysterious, magical doorway. Curiosity compelled her to transform into an elf and step through the portal, unsure of what awaited. Reminded of her modesty, she conjured a new outfit to avoid scandal. Hearing that the girl wanted food, Frugo instructed Nakoya to prepare an extra portion, generously offering to cover the cost himself. Nearby, Artorius Hinan, quietly dining, observed the girl's arrival with a knowing gaze, suspecting her nature. Resigned, he simply watched. 2 plates of the tomato rice were brought forward, and Kuro mimicked Frugo's eating method. The first bite ignited delight. This new flavor captured her heart, and she quickly finished her meal, even ordering more. Frugo, noticing her enthusiasm, hastened to eat faster to call for additional servings. Aletta, caught off guard by the growing feast, confessed her confusion to Nakoya. Frugo, ever generous, declared he would pay for Kuro's feast. The tension dissolved as the pair feasted like champions, moving from one plate to the next with gleeful abandon. Frugo soon felt full, but the girl's orders kept coming, relentless as a whirlwind. Suddenly, the Queen of Dragons arrived to purchase a pot of beef stew to take away. She sensed a different energy in the Ira, presence familiar, as if tied to past bonds. The two communicated silently, their minds intertwined by telepathy. After placing her order, the Queen seated herself, inquiring about the mysterious door that had appeared in Kuro's domain. With a subtle probe, she began to test the young dragon's secrets. The atmosphere thickened as the tension between ancient powers stirred beneath the surface. Yet amidst this silent dance of dragons and destiny, the humble feast continued. Plates piled high, spirits lifted, and a quiet understanding blossomed. The story wasn't just about food or battle-sit, it was about survival, connection, and the fragile threads that bind even the mightiest souls. And as the dragons conversed beyond words, their hearts carried the weight of centuries of fear, hope, and the unyielding will to endure. For in this world of magic and mystery, even a single meal could become a beacon of light in the darkest night, reminding us that sometimes the most profound strength lies in moments of shared humanity. Was she up to something beyond just eating? After receiving the simple answer that she was here only to eat, the Dragon Queen issued a warning. This was her territory, and if Kuro wanted anything from this restaurant, she had to pay in full. Suspecting Kuro might try to sneak a free meal, the Dragon Queen made it clear she wouldn't tolerate any foolishness threatening her domain. If Kuro dared to cause trouble here, her life would be at risk. But Kuro, innocent and clueless about how to earn money, was at a loss. So, the Dragon Queen offered a solution. Kuro could work like a human to earn her keep. Summoning Nakoya, she introduced Kuro as an acquaintance from a remote land, unfamiliar with the concept of money, and apparently fond of the dishes Nakoya cooked. She asked Nakoya to let Kuro stay and work here, assuring her that Kuro was a diligent worker and that any leftover chicken could be used as her wages. With the Dragon Queen's insistence, Nakoya reluctantly accepted Kuro as an employee. At that moment, Aletta brought out the food and overheard the owner looking for new staff. Shocked, She feared that her overeating had displeased the owner and might cost her the job. Meanwhile, Rocky and Aris had met 3 days earlier. As usual, Rocky set out fishing on his father's boat, but that day, a sudden storm lashed the sea, capsizing the boat and nearly drowning him. Luckily, Aris, a mermaid, rescued him and brought him back to the boat. Upon waking, he saw her praying to the sea god to calm the waves. Her beauty seemed to capture his soul. After the storm, Aris helped guide Rocky's boat to a deserted island safely. Grateful beyond words, Rocky wanted to repay her kindness. To his surprise, Aris straightforwardly asked for 10 silver coins. Rocky was baffled. Why would a mermaid need money? Aris invited Rocky to meet her every Saturday. For Rocky, the human world was foreign, and he had never heard of mermaids buying things like humans. He believed mermaids didn't value gold or silver, since they couldn't eat or wield weapons like humans. Though their scales and teeth could be crafted into jewelry, they couldn't grasp why humans and dwarves craved money. But Aris was different. She lived among mermaids in the southern seas who worshipped the forest god and understood money's true worth. The next day, Rocky waited at their meeting spot, where Aris transformed into a human with legs to explore the forest. Seeing her new form stirred feelings in Rocky. These were the dragon legs granted by the forest god, though she lacked wings to fly. Together, they approached the gateway to the Nicoya world. Upon entering, Aris immediately ordered her favorite dishes. Nicoya noticed her companion and asked Rocky what he wanted. Aris ordered 2 servings of hamburger with brown sauce and rice. Sitting down, Aris explained to Rocky that this restaurant was from another world and he could only visit here once every Saturday. When the food arrived, Rocky's curiosity grew from the unique presentation. He wanted to ask more, but seeing Aris pick up her fork and knife, he followed suit. After just one bite, Rocky craved more, especially when paired with fried eggs. The flavors multiplied. His joyful expression warmed Aris's heart, and they finished their meals together. Vi wanted to call the staff to order 2 more dishes, but was startled by Kuro's whispered voice. Aris seemed displeased, confessing she only had 1 coin. Hearing this, Rocky insisted he would pay everything today since she brought him to such a wonderful place. After dining, they sat by the sea, getting to know each other better. Rocky invited Aris to eat with him every Saturday, and she happily agreed, filling him with joy. Except for Saturdays, Aletta still worked other days at Nicoya. Today, when she applied for extra work, she unexpectedly met a senior treasure hunter, Sarah, who often dined at the restaurant. Seeing Aletta, Sarah immediately hired her. Aletta's job was to handle laundry and housekeeping when Sarah was away, earning 8 silver coins a day. Sarah still had an empty room, so she kept Aletta there for convenience. After finishing her application, Aletta returned to Nicoya on Saturday to work. Hearing this, Uncle Nicoya gifted her a box of cookies. Aletta eyed the box nervously, guessing it was expensive. Uncle Nicoya assured her it was pricey but offered at a friendly price since it came as a gift. Aletta seemed to enjoy the cookies during her break. She savored them but felt they disappeared too quickly, promising herself to eat only a little at a time and save the rest. After work, she returned to Sarah's house to clean. Seeing the nearly empty cookie box, she regretted not saving more for tomorrow. Just then, Sarah's younger sister, Sia, came to visit. She called out but only found Aletta, who introduced herself as Sarah's housekeeper. Sia was surprised but entered to wait for her sister. She wondered why Sarah would hire such a little troublemaker for housework. Sarah had once been cursed by William's expedition for Veracruz that struck some members of the Kim clan each generation. Those afflicted abandoned their family's merchant status to become treasure hunters or explorers, often risking their lives. To Sia, this curse was personal, since her sister was infected. Aletta, unaware of social niceties, offered Sia some cookies. At first, Sia looked down on the humble treat but noticed its delicate craftsmanship and decided to try a few. To her surprise, the cookies were delicious, crispy outside, soft inside, perfectly paired with hot green tea. Sia finished the entire plate and tea. When Aletta came out, Sia asked where the cookies came from, assuming Sarah had bought them. Seeing Aletta hesitate, Sia requested Aletta buy some for her next time. Hearing about the beautifully packaged cookies, Sia wanted to see the box, and only then did she believe they must be expensive. Guessing it might be pricey, Nicoya reassured her that while it was a bit costly, it came with a special box, and she could buy it at a friendly price. Aletta seemed to really enjoy the cookies during her break, eating them with delight. However, once finished, she felt the cookies vanish too quickly and reminded herself to eat sparingly to save some for later. After finishing her tasks, Aletta returned to her home to clean. Looking at the nearly empty box of cookies, she felt a pang of regret, deciding to save the rest for tomorrow. At that moment, Sar's younger sister, Sia, came to visit. Calling out, she only met Aletta, who introduced herself as Sar's maid. Sia was surprised but entered the house to wait for her sister. She muttered in disbelief, wondering why her sister would hire a mischievous brat like Aletta to manage the household. After all, Sia's sister was no ordinary lady. Sa once fell victim to William's cursey fever that gripped the Kim clan every generation. It swept some into abandoning their status in the merchant guild, transforming them into treasure hunters or explorers, often risking their lives. For Xia, William's curse was personal, infecting her sister Aletta, though Aletta herself remained unaware. Aletta offered Xia her homemade cookies, unsure of how they'd be received. Initially, Xia looked down on them, curious yet skeptical about this humble treat. But upon closer inspection, the cookies were crafted with delicate care. Taking a bite, Xia was surprised, the outside crisp and golden, the inside soft and moist, perfectly paired with a cup of green tea. The harmony of flavors was so enchanting. Xia devoured the entire plate. When Aletta stepped out, Xia wanted to ask where she got the cookies, thinking maybe her older sister had bought them. Seeing Aletta hesitate, Xia changed tack and asked if she could buy some herself. Aletta described the petite box holding the cookies, and Xia's curiosity grew. Glancing at the box, Xia guessed it must be expensive, but without a second thought, she handed Aletta a gold coin, requesting to buy the cookies next time. Xia imagined the box costing around 40 to 50 silver coins, not nearly a gold coin's worth, but she gave extra just in case, planning to get change later with thanks. Aletta was stunned by Xia's serious request. Just then, Sa returned home and teasingly mocked her sister holding hands with Xia. The next day, Xia was shocked to learn Aletta only spent 1 silver coin on a box of cookies. Finding them so affordable, Aletta bought 2 boxes to share with Xia. So Xia invited Aletta and her older sister to join her for a cookie feast. Seeing Aletta remember, her sister warmed Sa's heart, and she agreed to join in. That day, 2 best friends, Gil and Hem, found themselves wandering to the Nakoya restaurant in another world. Gil doubted Hem's claim there's no way a restaurant could be built atop a mountain. Frustrated, Gil threatened to punch his old friend but missed. They followed him to a small mountain hut, surprised again no restaurant in sight. Yet Hem reassured Gil to ignore the humble setting, explaining he built it himself, embracing its worn charm. But Gilhem felt skeptical. A restaurant built on a mountain? No way! Furious, he shouted and tried to punch his old friend but missed. Still, he followed curiously, leading them to a small cabin on the mountain. The surprise grew. This place looked nothing like a restaurant. Yet Hem calmed down once his friend explained it was his own creation, despite its humble state. They stepped inside and were shocked to see some strange guests. But the calm expressions of those visitors reassured them, and they settled down. Gilhem guided his friend to a table while ordering with Kuro, 2 fried seafood dishes, 2 mugs of beer, and whiskey on the rocks. The old friend looked around, amazed and curious, wondering if the beer truly lived up to Gilhem's praise. Could it really be so good that even the dwarves' best brewers would bow down? Gilhem seemed confident, teasing that the restaurant had many dishes he had never seen before, each possibly good enough to make his old friend drop his boots. Kuro headed to the kitchen to prepare the order, while Aletta suggested serving the beer first. When the 2 frothy, fragrant mugs arrived, the guests couldn't help but marvel. Together, they clinked glasses and cheered. The beer truly was extraordinary. They even ordered 2 more large mugs to savor the moment. One guest, a master glass artisan, admired the beautiful glasses and vowed to craft something similar at home. Gilhem chuckled, knowing his friend's obsession with fine details, and playfully teased him during their chat. As they talked, Aletta brought 2 giant mugs of beer along with the crispy fried seafood. Gilhem's old friend, who loved seafood, was impressed by the presentation. Gilhem introduced each seafood item, and when his friend tasted a piece of fish, he was instantly captivated by its exquisite flavor. They eagerly ate, sharing and savoring every bite. Once their plates were clean, the friend noticed Gilhem dipping his food in a special sauce. Curious, he asked what it was. Gilhem explained it was the ultimate seasoning for fish, an indispensable companion. If only he'd mentioned it sooner, the friend might not have finished his plate so quickly. When Aletta brought the whiskey, Gilhem didn't hesitate to order 3 more seafood portions to satisfy their cravings. The 2 best friends drank and feasted together, until they finally woke up in that same dilapidated cabin. It wasn't a dream after all, as the whiskey bottle still sat on the table. The friend gratefully thanked Gilhem for introducing such a wonderful restaurant. Taking the opportunity, he also promised to renovate the cabin for their next visit. From that day, the stone house on the mountain became famous. It was known as a perfect resting spot for travelers and merchants visiting the dwarf town. The dwarf manager even added 2 straw mats and warm blankets to comfort weary guests. But the cabin held a mysterious secret. Behind it was a thick, sturdy door that no hammer strike could budge. Inside, lay something only those who built the place possessed the key to unlock. Prince Seraph, a royal of the Tsar kingdom, secretly harbors feelings for Princess Adel High. Their paths cross in the quaint Nicoya restaurant, far from home. Seraph has carved a flourishing empire around what they call coffee in his land, where magic is more common than elsewhere. The Tsar kingdom spans a territory vaster than both the eastern and western continents combined, yet its people prefer living close to water and the sea. This preference leaves the kingdom's might less impressive than its size suggests. Magic thrives naturally here, so when Prince Seraph introduced iced coffee nearby, it quickly became a signature of Tsar. Behind this cool concoction stands Prince Seraph himself. He has a half-sister named Rena, sharing the same father. Their mother was a low-ranking noblewoman, but her magical talents elevated her above her peers. Her prowess earned her a place at the royal palace, where she won the king's heart and bore Rena. As a council sorceress, she taught magic to both Seraph and Rena. Now, Rena scolds her brother for his timidity. Why won't he make a grand impression on Princess Adel? While Seraph remains fixated on diplomacy between their nations, Rena urges him to first build that alliance, then marry the princess, sealing their royal bond. She argues it's a solid plan, not bad for the empire, if he truly wants to strengthen ties with their royal house. Until the princess's illness eases, though, no one dares speak of marriage. Rena knows that in the western continent their kingdom is still rising, while the empire dominates the eastern lands. With such imbalance, if the princess objects, her wishes must come first. To Rena, that means approaching her before she recovers. Saturday arrives, and the desert sun blazes at noon. The cousins head once again to Nicoya restaurant. As usual, they find the perfect spot. Rena wonders what to order, and finally settles on melon soda with fresh cream, while her brother sticks to his daily ritual coffee with cream. When their dishes arrive, the melon soda's vibrant hues delight Rena, who eagerly tastes it. Unlike Rena's bubbly drink, Seraph's coffee blends sweet and bitter notes, which she finds unsettling. As they savor their drinks, the door chimes Princess Adel has arrived, just as Seraph hoped. Rena greets her warmly, but her brother barely speaks, blushing and shy. Rena nudges him, yet the prince only utters a few words before falling silent. She invites Adel to join their table, and the princess happily agrees, ordering refreshing chocolate ice cream. Throughout the visit, Seraph remains quiet, eyes locked on the princess. Rena feels let down by her brother's shyness, wishing he could be half as bold as usual, then maybe he'd truly impress Adel. Still, she consoles herself. At least today he's talking to her. Meanwhile, Queen Tiana of the Flower Kingdom, a fairy queen, is deep in her books when news arrives of a mysterious door appearing in her realm. Determined to safeguard her kingdom, Tiana sends troops to investigate and discovers a colossal, strange portal. She decides to step through herself to explore. Planting a seed on the ground summons her guards. As the door opens, a dazzling light spills forth. After a moment's thought, she leads a group through, eager to uncover the purpose of those beyond. Inside, the scene is calm. Everyone seems absorbed in enjoying their meals. Tiana soothes her troops, reassuring them. She approaches Victoria, greeting her, and asking where they are. Victoria explains this is a restaurant from another world. The queen is intrigued, learning that after eating, customers pay with human currency, a curious custom. Tiana wonders if the food here can match the famed sweetness of her kingdom's honey, as travelers often claim human meals fall short. Victoria affirms the dish's deliciousness, and offers to suggest a few that might suit fairy tastes. After surveying the menu, Victoria recommends fruit crepes, guessing the fairies would prefer fruit over other flavors. The queen, intrigued, orders a serving. A letter brings it, and knowing the fairy's small size, Victoria tactfully asks her to cut the crepes into bite-sized pieces. The beautifully presented dish sparks curiosity. Tiana volunteers to taste first, though the chief sorcerer protests, fearing poison. But Tiana trusts her enchanted guards to neutralize any harm. She bites into the soft outer layer, then savors each fruit nestled inside. The flavors are sweet and delicate, the crepe's crust merely a canvas highlighting the fruit's essence. After finishing, the queen invites everyone to share. Delight spreads among the fairies. Grateful, Tiana thanks Victoria and offers a seed from her homeland as a token of friendship. Victoria, touched, insists on covering the entire meal. Curious about the mysterious door's origins, Nicoya asks Victoria how it can appear in Tiana's land. Victoria admits she doesn't know. The door seems to manifest wherever it wills. She apologizes for any trouble caused. Tiana waves off concerns, expressing hope to return soon. Learning the door only appears on Saturdays, Tiana regrets the limited time but vows to bring more companions next visit. Months pass, and once again on a Saturday, the door materializes. The fairies debate dessert choices, but indecision lingers. Finally, as the Nicoya door opens, Queen Tiana reassures them they'll continue their culinary quest beyond the portal. The dish carried a hidden poison, but Tiana was determined to try it first. Her protective magic shield would purge all toxins, keeping her safe. She bit into the outer crust, then savored the fruit fillings inside the crepe. The queen sighed with delight. The flavors were sweet and enchanting. The crust was subtle, merely a base to elevate the crepe's essence. After finishing, she invited everyone to share the treat, and all were enchanted by this delicacy. The queen then flew over to Victoria, thanking her for introducing such a delicious dish and gifted her a seed from her homeland as a keepsake. In return, Victoria offered to cover the queen's entire meal. Seeing the ladies enjoy the food, Nicoya asked curiously how the mysterious door appeared in her land. She admitted she didn't know the door appeared wherever it pleased. She apologized for any trouble, but Tiana gently waved it off, hopeful she'd return again. Upon hearing the door only appeared every Saturday, Tiana felt a pang of regret, but resolved to bring more people next time. Months later, on another Saturday, the little fairies debated what dessert to try. Unable to decide, when Nicoya's door appeared, the queen assured them they would continue the discussion beyond it. Arriving through the door, Tiana declared they'd dine at the Nicoya restaurant immediately, sparking excitement among her subjects. The fairies settled neatly around the table, ready to order. Elsewhere, Fania searched for her father's friend, a renowned food critic named Cran. She had his address from her father, who advised her to contact Cran telepathically if needed. Cran would guide her way. Meanwhile, inside Cran's home, he sensed someone breaking through his protective barrier in broad daylight. An elf, no less, arriving for a visit. A mystical door appeared, where the little fairies awaited as their queen declared that today she would lead them straight to the Nicoya restaurant. Excitement bubbled through the crowd as they flew through the portal, settling neatly at the dining table ready to order. The culinary master named Kran Cha had provided an address for her to visit him when necessary. She arrived at his residence, recalling his words from the letter if she ever needed help. She was to contact Kristen through telepathy. He would pave the way for her. Inside, Kristen was working when he sensed the barrier had been breached, and it seemed the intruder was rather skilled, even in broad daylight. He guessed it was likely an elf paying a visit. Fania asked passers-by for directions to Kristen's house, told to follow the scent of something unusual wafting from there. Trusting her nose, she found the place and knocked. Kristen warmly welcomed her, having heard tales about her from her father. He praised her clever dismantling of the magical barriera feat only a few elves had managed in a century, leaving him truly impressed. As they chatted, Fania boldly inquired about the strange aroma filling Kristen's home. Surprised by her candor, he revealed he was fermenting elf soybeans, much like aging cheese. Kristen began this culinary experiment because about 10 years ago, a portal to another world appeared in the forest, linked to a restaurant serving otherworldly dishes. They had once served him a dish using fermented soybeans. Hearing this, Fania realized it was the Nicoya restaurant, the gateway to another world. She led Kristen to the enchanted door, and upon entering they found Cran already familiar with them, ordering 2 plates of natto spaghetti. Fania was amazed. Could elves really enjoy this dish? Kristen thought the dish's unique aroma meant he might be the only one ordering it here. When the dishes arrived, Fania was captivated by the distinct fragrance, while Kristen savored the nostalgia of an old favorite. Watching her eat, he sensed she was lost in thought, but clearly delighted by the taste. After finishing their meals, Kuro stepped forward to clear the table, but before Kristen could speak, Fania asked if natto could be paired with rice, expressing her eagerness to try it that way. Her question caught Kristen off guard. He had always thought natto was only for noodles. Kuro, upon hearing this, rushed into the kitchen to ask Chef Nicoya. Though the restaurant specialized in Western cuisine, the chef smiled and agreed to fulfill the request. Kristen was shocked but curious himself, ordering the natto with rice to see how it would taste. Taking his first bite of natto mixed with rice, Fania's eyes lit up with joy. It was a perfect match, just as she had suspected. Kristen, too, was amazed by this fusion, likening the blend to 2 lifelong friends coming together. Seeing Fania, the daughter of his closest friend, impress him with her bold culinary creativity, Kristen felt a deep respect. It was true youthful spirit shining bright. Back at home, Kristen shared with Fania that the Western continent also had rice as a staple food, fueling her excitement and curiosity about traveling there someday. This moment wasn't just about food, it was a bridge between worlds, a spark of friendship and adventure igniting in their hearts. Then, the uncle gifted the little girl a box containing miso made from elf bean koji, a rare miso accidentally perfected during his research. Knowing her love for miso, he gave it to her for the long journey ahead. Fania was deeply moved, her heart swelling with gratitude for the uncle's kindness. After a warm farewell to Kristen, she continued on her path. Today was Saturday again. Kuro woke up, ready to head to work at the Nakoya restaurant. Transforming back into her usual form, Kuro slipped into a dress to avoid causing a scene. She stepped through the door where the three greeted each other good morning. The Nakoya owner asked if she wanted to prepare a traditional curry dish today. Though his face showed no emotion, inside Kuro's heart bloomed with joy. She thought maybe, in his eyes, she wasn't a burden but simply someone who hesitated too long to accept things. While the feeling was unclear, for Kuro, the curry was her true love. At this moment, Kuro agreed to take the job because she had a century-old acquaintance named Sheech, a red dragon who had flown all the way to her home. Sheech asked her to protect this place from trouble when she was away. The restaurant's owner and staff were from another world, fragile beings in need of protection. Though Kuro restrained her magic, she knew she could handle guarding the restaurant. She resolved to shield both the people and spirits working here, nestled in the deep green expanse between the eastern and western continents. In the surrounding sea lived sirens, beings with wings on their backs and bird-like legs, appearing as beautiful maidens. Among them lurked those dangerous enough to use their enchanting songs and beauty to lure sailors into the depths, drowning ships and the unlucky souls aboard. Today, the Arios sisters sought a new nesting place. Arios's elder sister wanted to explore the island of the Chimera hunters, but Arios warned her it was perilous and advised avoidance. Her sister insisted that the hunter was just a human without wings like them. Having lived for centuries, even if he was fearsome once, he must be weakened now and unable to harm them. Though hesitant, Arios was eventually convinced, and the two flew toward the Chimera Hunter's island. Inside the large cave, Sirius saw no one but noticed scratch marks on the stone walls. They discovered a human treasure chest filled with coins. Arios picked up a letter, written in human language. Reading it, they learned that Frugo was protecting those trapped there, informing them of a magical door that appeared every Saturday atop the hill. The letter also left a small stash of money for the trapped souls' use. After confirming the place was safe and deserted, the Arios sisters decided to make this island their new home, joyfully exploring every corner. On Saturday, just as the letter said, they flew to the hilltop and indeed saw the mystical door. Intrigued, they entered and met Aletta, who happily introduced them to the restaurant serving Western dishes from another world. Hearing this, Arios's sister was thrilled and wanted to stay and wait for the menu. The sisters toured the place, and Iris's curiosity led her to the piano. Despite her brother's protests, Iris insisted on playing. The two sang a duet, but their magical music inadvertently lulled Nakoya and Aletta into drowsiness during work. Sensing something was off, Kuro rushed out and gently covered the guests' ears, leading them elsewhere. She warned the sisters that humans here couldn't tolerate their songs. Threateningly, she told them to just eat and stop singing if they wanted peace. Realizing their mistake, the sisters apologized. Curious about Kuro's silent way of communicating, Arios's sister asked how she spoke without words. Kuro explained she sent her thoughts directly into others' minds. Excited, Iris begged Kuro to teach her this skill. Just then, Aletta appeared, asking to resolve the noise by bringing the menu. The sisters, unfamiliar with the dishes, ordered raw fish to avoid complicated cooking. Aletta panicked, rushing inside to ask Nakoya, fearing it wouldn't be on the menu. Unexpectedly, Nakoya confirmed they did serve raw fish called capio. The dish was soon placed before the sisters, who eyed it hungrily. After tasting, they were ecstatic, praising the careful blood removal and perfect cuts. Within hours, they devoured several plates. Suddenly, an elderly guest entered. When Aletta mentioned his name, Frugoth's sisters were surprised, sensing something significant. After eating, they decided to settle here, eager to enjoy dishes from another world. Later, after saying goodbye to Sheech over their final dinner of the day, Kuro noticed the owner acting strangely. He brought out lumpy, round objects to cook. Staring intently, Kuro learned from Nakoya that these were curry buns filled with curry. Since there was too much for one person, he planned to serve them for dinner. While waiting for the fried buns, Kuro snacked on her curry portion. As Nakoya dropped the buns into hot oil, their aroma wafted to Aletta's nose. Outside, Aletta eagerly watched the golden, crisp buns fry to perfection. The uncle and niece prayed silently before eating. Aletta's first bite was fiery hot and spicy. The owner seemed unfazed, as if accustomed to such heat. Kuro grabbed a bun and felt the warmth radiate. The light curry scent filled her senses. She took a bite, delighting in the crispy crust and soft filling. The curry's rich, spicy essence reminded her of her favorite stew, though she still preferred her original curry. A delicacy called capio, made from live fish, was served on the table. The two cousins gazed at it, their mouths watering in anticipation. After tasting a piece, they were utterly enchanted. noting how meticulously the blood had been filtered out and how perfectly it was sliced. Just a few hours later, the two of them had devoured several plates. At that moment, an elderly guest entered. Arios was startled to hear Aletta mention his name. Frugon began to piece things together. After finishing their meal, the cousins decided they would make this place their home, so they could enjoy dishes from another world. As they bid farewell to the restaurant after their final dinner for the day, Kuro noticed the owner was acting differently than usual. He brought out some round, lumpy objects in preparation for cooking. Kuro stared intently at what Nicoya held, leading him to explain that these were the famous kadi buns. The ingredient was kadi too much for one person to finish, so Nicoya planned to use it for dinner. While waiting for fried cakes, Kuro ate his share of the kadi. As Nicoya dropped the cakes into hot oil, their aroma wafted to Aletta's nose. The golden, crispy cakes looked irresistible. The uncle and niece prayed before eating. Aletta bit into the cake and immediately felt the heat and spice. The uncle seemed unfazed, used to the dish's punch. Kuro picked up a cake, sensing its warmth and the gentle fragrance of kadi. He took a bite with satisfaction, the outside crisp, inside tender. The dish reminded him of the rich, spicy broth of kadi he loved. Overall, he still preferred the kadi itself. Soon, Q joined in eating with them. They enjoyed a tangy, sweet, fermented dairy drink that washed away the spice, leaving a refreshing taste. After their meal, it was time to clock out. Aletta reminded Kuro to travel safely, but Kuro, a creature born to live at the edge of the sky, brushed off the concern with a smile. Another workday ended. When Aletta entered the shop, the sweet aroma greeted her. Uncle Nicoya declared today a meat day, serving tonjiru soup instead of the usual miso. Soon, Kuro arrived, and they both headed to the kitchen for breakfast. Aletta seemed shy, wanting to mention the tonjiru. Nicoya, understanding, promised to prepare it for the staff dinner later that evening. Artorias, an elven hero, spent most of his life on the battlefield. Mastering both holy magic and swordsmanship beyond any three warriors combined, the four friends united to end the century-long war against demons. Yet, the price for slaying the demon king summoned by the Dark Lord was high. Yomi, the hero, paid the ultimate cost. More than 70 years later, Leonard became the Pope of the Light God, leading countless followers and cementing the Light God's power. Meanwhile, Artorias advanced magic to legendary heights in his territory and became a great hero, dedicating himself day and night to guiding knowledge and moving closer to the pinnacle of magical wisdom. His legacy shaped the realm's future, a beacon of strength and enlightenment. This tale reminds us that even amidst sacrifice and loss, the spirit of heroes endures, lighting the path through darkness and inspiring those who follow. One day, Alex happened to visit his old friend at the ancient ruins. Meeting Taurus, they chatted, and Alex felt his friend was still the same at heart, though age had turned him into a feeble old man. But no matter, Alex didn't add more. Acarus urged his friend to get straight to the point, so Alex did just that. He asked Taurus to take him to a restaurant from another world because he'd heard from an acquaintance that someone there resembled Artorias. Taurus wasn't worried and agreed to take him, but warned they should come in the evening since the guest there might scare Alex out of his wits. At the restaurant, Kuro and Aletta were serving customers. Today, the tonjiru soup was incredibly popular within just a few hours. Both the soup and rice were nearly sold out. The side dishes were also enjoyed immensely by the patrons. Gazing at this sumptuous bowl of soup, there was a comforting feeling, like the warmth of a mother's cooking from childhood. As the day drew to a close, the customers finished their meals and began to leave. Nicoya was busy preparing the last meal of the night. After finishing their work, the three sat down to eat dinner together. Aletta looked excited about today's dishes. Nearby, Artorias and Alex were also ready to eat inside the restaurant. Only 3 guests remained, Princess Adele and Sharif's 2 brothers. After finishing her portion, Adele greeted the brothers goodbye, but the prince seemed very embarrassed facing her. Only when the voice of the one he longed for faded away did he open his eyes in disappointment. Renna grumbled to his older brother. "Weren't you supposed to get closer to her today? You didn't even ask about her likes." Despite being scolded, the prince justified his own actions. Then the 2 brothers argued inside the tavern. The prince, frustrated, stormed off first. At that moment, Artorias arrived, bringing his outgoing friend Alex along. As Artorias sat down and was about to order his usual meal, Alex interrupted, ordering the exact same dishes. While they chatted, Kuro walked by, causing Alex to freeze. Alex quietly asked Artorias if that elf was really dangerous. Artorias warned him, "If you don't want trouble with a tough rival, just keep quiet and eat." Aletta then brought their meals. Alex admired the golden, fragrant dishes, praising how the food here was even better than what he had back in his empire. After a bite, He declared it truly a dish of another level. As they talked about the food, Artorias suddenly mentioned the Yomi hero from long ago, who was still alive after 70 years. Alex was taken aback by the mention, sensing a deeper story behind the legendary warrior who had shaped their world. The restaurant buzzed quietly around them, but in that moment, time seemed to pause, a reminder that even legends carry the weight of time and sacrifice. As they savored their meal, the warmth of the restaurant contrasted with the cold shadows of history. Alex's eyes reflected a mixture of admiration and curiosity. In this peaceful moment, beneath the glow of the evening lights, the past and present intertwined, inviting us to reflect on the burdens heroes bear and the legacies they leave behind. Before the final battle unfolded, Yomi was cast into this world. And not just that, Yomi even has a grandson here. Suddenly, Alex's eyes widened with realization as he glanced behind the master. He guessed what Artorias meant. Could Nicoya really be Yomi's son? But looking at Nicoya, he didn't seem like someone who could wield magic or swords. Artorias explained that Nicoya's mother once said her child didn't need to use sword or magic. She only wished her son could surpass her cooking skills. Now Alex finally understood Yomi had found peace in this world. Meanwhile, in the Adel Empire, Princess Aletta was happily eager to visit the grave. She hurried so much that the maid started to worry she might hurt herself. The princess reassured her, saying it had been a long time since she last visited her grandfather's grave, so she was a bit nostalgic. At the grave, Alex stood silently before the Adel family tomb. For him, Adel's mother was the only true parent he had left. He felt helpless and blamed himself for not saving the mother and daughter in time. Tears streamed down his face as he wept there. Just then, Princess Aletta arrived and asked about him. When the maid mentioned the name Adel too, Alex's heart leapt with joy. She was alive. After that emotional encounter, they parted ways, ending a long day. The day's work at Nicoya's restaurant came to an end. Aletta was curious about the tonjiru dish. The master replaced the free miso soup with it, but she worried if the restaurant could afford such generosity. Nicoya comforted her, explaining that meat day only comes once a month, so the meal's cost could be made up for. Their grandfather once said that side dishes at the restaurant should be served free with meals not charged. It was like his final wish. Besides, everyone was eating joyfully, and they shouldn't ruin that happiness. Hearing this, Aletta was moved to tears by their master's compassionate heart. Then her mood brightened again, excited for the upcoming dinner. And so, this anime's tale gently closes here. If you enjoyed this journey, please leave